Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this week on Invincible, let's just say it did not disappoint. So this one mainly focused on the Viltrumites and Thragg, and let's just say he, like I said, did not disappoint. We got to see how powerful Thragg really is. So if you guys like this type of content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe and comment on your favorite part on this episode. But let's just dive right in. So, the beginning of the episode, we pretty much just get a flashback, really, understanding, the Viltrumites. They're very brutal. And as we've seen time and time again in earlier episodes, how their whole idea, their ideology, is taking control of other planets, other species, and, just conforming to their own. And as we notice on this planet, this species wants to rebel. Nobody wants to be under the Viltrumite authority. So time and time again, we see them try to, rebel and just go against the Viltrumites' nature. But in doing so, we notice that the Viltrumites aren't having it. They're having a meeting, not really understanding why these species doesn't want to conform. And in this flashback, we see, you know, Emperor Argyle, making decisions, letting them know to, kill off 22% of the population. And, if it keeps on happening, they'll wipe out, the whole population. In this flashback, we see we see a young Thaddeus, we see a young Thragg, we see General Craig, and we notice that Thaddeus, we see where his ideology became from. He wants to depart from, Viltrumites, doesn't want this to continue. And in doing so, we notice that, Argyle is not feeling this. He senses some weakness. And obviously, as we know, that the whole Viltrumite, their ideology is, there can't be weakness in their race. We see Thragg and Argyle, in the distance talking, let him know, like, there can be no weakness in this race, that if he sees his best fit, that Thragg, should kill Thaddeus. But seeing the history that they've grown together, Thragg has much recognition, much respect for Thaddeus, so he decides just to leave it be. And obviously, and in doing so, this causes for the death of Argyle through Thaddeus's ideology. He wants to end, Viltrumites. He is the one that later assassinates Argyle and pretty much starts this whole turmoil with the Viltrumites. We see that everybody kind of just not knowing what to do. So we see Thragg take control, take the place, just waiting for one of the descendants to take place if there are any. And we see, his first thing as emperor, his first thing as ruler is to, get rid of any weakness. And we see that this is the cause or the start of pretty much the Viltrumite destruction. You know, one by one, we see Viltrumites getting killed left and right. And in the end, we're only left with a small handful of the Viltrumites, but obviously the strong, the strong just survive. So we later continue in the present. We see with the coalition, well, we see Thaddeus, we see Nolan, Mark, Oliver, we see Battle Beast, we see Alan. And their next step is, to meet Thragg head on. So their plan is to go to Viltrum. On their way there, they're having talks, they're meeting, they're seeing that, is Thragg really as powerful as he may seem? Does he live up to the hype? And in doing so, they know that this this war really ends with Thragg. So pretty much to cut off the head of the snake, they gotta do it with Thragg. So we're getting ready, for the actual war, heading, head on. And as we get there, they're ready. We see them heading to Viltrum, and out of nowhere, we notice that the Viltrumites knew that they were coming. So we see all of them Thragg just waiting for them. Really not phased at all. We see, or will we see, I guess, Desi live up to the hype. Now the battles, is going back and forth. We see Viltrumites swinging, hitting left and right. Allen's getting involved. Tech Jacket's getting involved. We see Nolan get involved. Oliver get involved, and really just Thragg is just looking from afar, just not phased, just seeing what's going on. And out of nowhere, we see Space Racer get involved, hopefully to up the scale on the coalition side. And as we notice, this may be their chance. Nolan decides to take Thragg head on. And this is where we truly see how the power scale is just different from Thragg. He's he is number one. He's top. Like it's him and then everybody else. We see that there's no one that can compare to him. And we obviously see that Nolan pays that price. Now, diving more in with Thragg and Nolan, we see them have a conversation, one on one, like just understanding like what is going on. Like there is no need for this. Nolan, him changing is wants to change the other Viltrumites, starting with Thragg. And then Thragg, seeing that, they've grown up together, they went through all the experience of the Scourge virus through the death of Argyle. He only wants to make Viltrumite strong again. And as we see, Nolan is not willing to budge, even if there is an offset chance of Thaddeus, turning against him and Mark and Oliver. He's willing to, still fight for what he believes. And ultimately, he pays that price. Now, when the others see that, Thragg is really about that life, they all try to step in. Oliver doesn't go well, ends terribly immediately. Then we see Invincible try to step in, and we see he did get stronger, but he's not yet there at that level to take on Thragg. And as we notice, everyone sees just the ultimate difference in power scale between Thragg and everybody else. It's not even close. And we notice the only way to stop them is to stop them to where the heart lies. And we see that with Nolan's bright idea, the only way possible is to destroy Viltrum. Hopefully, this will destroy the Viltrumites altogether. And in doing so, we see, his plan work. They're able to destroy the whole planet with the help of Space Racer. Following the beam. Opening up the hole and just crushing the planet from the inside out. And in doing so, we think this is where the battle ends, but it really only just started. We see Thragg, he is completely pissed. He's not happy, not happy at all. And we notice this is definitely the turning point where he is not holding back. And we see him speed blitz Thaddeus with no hesitation and just rips his head off. When I tell you this changed everything for everybody. They noticed Thragg means business, and we see the coalition just literally shit their pants. They're like, oh no, like he's right here. Now Thragg, his only option is to go after Omni-Man, and we see him just obliterate Omni-Man left and right, punches, not caring, bro. He's upset, man. He's doing everything in his power. And then we see Mark doing his best, try to hold in, but we just know Thragg, he's just a different beast. He takes everybody apart. And in a split second, when you think, Mark and Omni-Man are about to die, we see Thragg just stop. He's taking a look at his home planet, which once was, and he noticed he doesn't want to see any more, dead Viltrumites. He see all the ones that died because of the Scourge virus, and Loki has had a soft moment right then and there, and we're really just left with Mark and Omni Man barely surviving. We see that the others were able to somehow just escape from the wits of the Viltrum, and we see that Viltrumites literally their only option is to go to Earth and start anew, start their own planet, start their own population again, and we're left with Mark and Omni Man being picked up by the rest, having to go weeks in recovery, and just really just have no game plan now. Like their only option is to go back to Earth and hopefully end this, once and for all. But like I said, we'll see on the next episode. We'll see, hopefully, if Mark is able to be truly become invincible and stop Thragg this time, or if with the help of Omni-Man, if Omni-Man can overcome and stop Thragg himself, or who knows, maybe this time Thragg will have a change of heart and fully commit and kill both Omni-Man and Mark. But I guess we'll see on the next episode. Let me know what you guys think of this episode. Leave down some comments what you guys think are going to happen in next episode. And like I said, if you guys like this type of content, make sure to give me a subscribe. And yeah, just I'll see you guys on the next one.